What's going on, Mosh Pit crew? Welcome to another episode of Geeking Out with the Metal Geek. I'm your host, the Metal Geek, and I just want to say one thing. Welcome to the Geek Pit. So before we introduce our guest right now, this guy is a second generation superstar. Let's give a Geeking Out welcome to our guest today, Hammerhead Smith.
Pleasure on being here. Thanks for having me.
What's going on, Hammerhead Smith? How's it going?
How you doing? You right? Not too bad.
Good. So first things first, how did you get your start in the wrestling business exactly?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a different story to what usually most people would say to you. So obviously, my father was a wrestler as well for 26 years. I've took his name. So obviously, I'm Hammerhead Smith Jr. He's senior. Um, and basically worked for one of the biggest promotions here in the UK, which is called All Star Wrestling.
Wow.
In terms of who doesn't know, he's been in the ring with the likes of Owen Hart, Jake the Snake Roberts, Robbie Brookside, all of those World of Sport legends.
So what would you say? Sorry, continue.
Yeah, that's
sorry.
right. No, you go.
Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so basically, I've been brought up with it for most of my life, to be honest. Went to the shows when he was wrestling, whether it was local or up north, down south, I was there. And when I was about 14, 15 years old, I said to my dad, look, do you think I could pursue this? And he said, well, there's only one way to find out. And he started training me. And my first ever match was against my dad and against another World of Sport legend called Steve Speed. And then I was teaming against another World of Sport legend called Pete Collins.
Wow. So what would you say it's the biggest advice your dad gave you growing up in the business?
There's many things. There's many things he did say. The number one that's always stuck with me is always remember to be yourself. Don't let anyone take advantage of you, because being a second generation wrestler, a lot of people would look to that and go, okay, this is my chance to take advantage of this guy, when actually come to agree with it with the matches, no one does. They just can't take with it.
Yeah. Also growing up as a second generation star, also like you have to work 110% harder just because everybody's looking at you and saying it's like, oh, he's just given this opportunity because of his dad. You know what I mean? But you have to put in the work to prove, hey, I belong here, you know?
Exactly. You've hit a nail on the head there. When I first broke into the business, a lot of people, still happens to today. It's crazy because I've been in the business now for about 7 to 8 years. And it still happens to this day where a lot of people say you've walked into the business, you've not been trained the right way because you haven't been in an affiliated training school. But even though my dad's wrestled one of like the best in the UK back in the early 90s and late 90s, and I've been trained the right way. It may not be like the new school way, but it's the old school way.
Yeah, man, if your dad getting in the ring with legends like Owen Hart, that you must hear like all the stories and everything like that, man. About stories about Owen Hart.
It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
Uh-huh. So, who are some of your dream opponents you would love to get in the ring with that you have not get in the ring with yet?
What, for like states or the indie scenes right now?
Both, a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would love to step in the ring with Zack Sabre Jr. I think he's an absolute amazing talent. I think our styles would work very well with each other. And I feel like that we could put on a really good match. Let's go with, I don't know, WWE. I would probably say some of the likes of Kevin Owens. I think me and him would be really good. And possibly Drew McIntyre, because obviously from the same country, I think it'd be a great match.
Who have been some of your inspirations to become a professional wrestler? I know you mentioned your dad, so you know.
I would say, so obviously my dad. I look to more old school kind of styles. So I don't know if you've. He's a World of Sport legend. Unfortunately, he's passed away now. But Rollerball Rocco.
Mm-hmm. I've
Um,
never heard of. I'm not too familiar with him though. But
yeah. So if you look back to his stuff on YouTube, and on over the internet, he's an absolute amazing talent. My dad was fortunate enough to be in the same dressing room with him, to be on the same show with him. He gave him some feedback and advice and everything like that. So watching his stuff, it was always a pleasure, and I always learned stuff in. See, I'm a kind of a guy that doesn't really watch this kind of era of wrestling. So like, look, don't get me wrong, I watch it, but I prefer the old school kind of style.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people also mentioned that you're also the second coming, like a Zach Gibson. If you want to talk how that all got started, and
I, th-
I,
I it's weird because funny enough now, Zach Gibson is obviously from Liverpool, and funny enough now, this isn't a
he's
coincidence, but I'm now situated in Liverpool.
mhm.
Um, so it's weird. I think it came about when I debuted for Outcast Pro Wrestling in the Isle of Wight. I cut this promo, and it was in a nightclub. It was an 18 plus show against Rudy Root. You've probably heard of him.
I remember. I remember this match. So yeah. So
So it was a good one, and a lot of people in the crowd were really hating me, and I got under a lot of people's skin. Um, it was language basically you wouldn't hear normally on a wrestling show, but because it's an 18 plus show, I was like, right, you know what? It's my debut. Let's really get the crowd going, and they were loud as anything for that match. And then after that, there was comments on the video and comments on the live stream because they did live streaming on the Twitch, and people were saying this is similar. This is like the next Zach Gibson for the reaction he was getting, the look that he's got. It's things happen weirdly, but it's not. It's like I said, it's not an insult to me. It's a compliment.
yeah, I mean, because Zach Gibson, I mean, I watched some of his work and he's killing it in the states right now, man. You
Absolutely.
know, some of the stuff with grizzled young veterans, man. That it's like if you have to be compared to someone like a Zach Gibson, it's like it means you're doing pretty well for yourself, right
Must
about
be.
now.
Must be. I must be doing something right.
Yeah, so yeah. But so what is your exactly your relationship with Jackson Arrow and how did that get started? So
God, this goes back ages. So Jackson Arrow and me, we were in a training school in the UK called Revolution Pro Wrestling.
I heard of it.
Yeah, so they're really big over here. They bring all the New Japan lot over. They bring all the States guys over. Obviously, all of the UK stars over. And I went to training, and I walked in, and obviously I told the coach at the time that I've had previous experience. I've done this. Obviously, my dad's straight, and he said, "Okay, we'll have a look at you." And I remember we did the normal drills that we would do, and then there's Jackson Arrow on the apron. He goes, "Okay, nice to meet you and everything." And I started doing these drills and these warms up, and his jaw just dropped literally because he was like, the way you are in the ring, you're so aggressive and you're so fresh to this business, but you look like you've been doing it for ages. And for me, like that was a massive compliment because Rev Pro is such a talent in training school, and I was only there for a few months because I was moving around here or there and everywhere, trying to get different experiences everywhere. So that's how I met Jackson, and then obviously he made Outcast Pro Wrestling, and he wanted me on the show for a while. And finally, it came to that Rudy Root match, and he was very impressed. The crowd were obviously hating on me, which I'm doing my job correctly. And hopefully this year I'll be returning there.
Okay, yeah. So you also worked with Rob Bagwell as well, so I believe. So
Yeah.
if you want to talk your thoughts on
Yeah. So that was, I think it was December of probably last year or the following year. And to be honest with you, that's got to be the loudest reaction I've ever had to a match.
it.
Absolutely. For that match, the crowd went absolutely mental. Rob did his "We Will Rock You" chant, and everyone just went for it, like everyone. And the guy that I am, I can't be having that. So I told
Uh-huh.
everybody how I felt, and they just absolutely ate it up. And it was a really enjoyable match.
I believe the if, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Rob Bagwell match was the week before the Rudy Root match,
No,
or a
it
couple.
was.
It was a couple weeks, or
I
it
think
was
it was. I
before.
think it was like a month to 2 months before the match,
All right.
because after when I had the Rudy Root match that same week, I won the heavyweight title for CCW.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was it that was with Miners Mania or
That was Miners Mania 1. We've just had Miners Mania 2 literally last week. And yeah, so that was about a year ago. Yeah.
that yeah. So I believe that because I remember we were talking about that during the podcast with Rob and I think it was Summer Rae, right?
Summer Rain. Yeah.
It was
Yeah, that's
Summer
correct.
Rain, yeah, yeah. It's like who would you want to be in your corner as a manager, dead or alive? I guess it means dead or alive.
Uh, I would say, I'd say Paul Heyman, you know.
Paul
He's got a
Heyman.
mind, he's got an absolute, mind for wrestling and the things that, I could do in the ring, and then imagine what he can do as a manager, he just elevates everyone every time that he's in the corner with them.
Yeah, Paul Heyman's. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's got to be one of the greatest of all time managers up there because I mean I've heard so many different opinions saying no Bobby Heenan. I mean, there's no really wrong answer. I mean, because they're all greats, you know. And
Yeah, just look at the caliber that Paul Heyman associates with. It's a long list.
exactly, especially ECW. If you even forgot ECW, man, he created ECW and made stars in ECW, which a lot of people know today. So.
He's got an absolute mind of a genius when it comes to wrestling. Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah. So what song gets you ready for a match? Like you'd say,
Um, I would say sounds weird, but I don't really listen to music to get me. It's more of like I like actually chilled music, and it sounds weird because of the way I am. But then the moment my music hits, because I've got custom made music, I don't use any like copyrighted music. And then the moment that kicks in, I'm in the zone straight away. So like backstage in the dressing room, I'm very calm, and then the moment my music hits, it's like Austin. The moment that glass hits, he was on it, and that's exactly
yeah,
what I'm like.
yeah. So what is it exactly? What's your energy like going through that curtain, man? What's like the feeling like when you go through it?
It's multiple emotions because obviously, due to me being a second generation, I've always feel like the moment I walk out, I've always got to prove something, and I've always got to go out there and just show everyone exactly why, I'm a second generation and why I say who I am. Um, so it's a mix of emotions. I always get butterflies, but before a match, it always is because you're walking out to hundreds of people. You don't know the way they're going react to you. 90% of the time, they absolutely hate my guts. That's a good thing. Um, so yeah, it's a mix of emotions, but I won't have it any other way, to be honest.
What would you say the biggest heat that you received from a fan is? Like or the crowd, you could say.
Um, I've had I've probably had, I think this was 3 months ago. I did a show in the UK, and uh, it sounds bad, but it's just the way I am. So a child was eating. Do you know? Have you got Mars bars wherever you are?
I
Chocolate bars.
think chocolate. Yeah, I know. Okay, go
Um,
ahead.
it was like a candy bar, and I took the candy bar off the child, ate it, and then spat it away, and then chucked it. So obviously it was his food. The mother came round with a walking stick and tried to take my head off.
Oh, crap, man. Yeah, but I
So
mean, but you think about it this way. A good friend of mine actually told me it's all fair game because the parents pay for this type of
exactly,
entertainment.
they're there to
So
see that
it's
give.
like it's like all about the heel just doing something like dastardly and for the baby face to come back and do something nice.
Exactly. Like they're there to to be entertained, and I feel that it's an old saying: if we don't have the crowd, we don't have wrestling.
Yeah.
Wrestling's all about the fans and everything. We're the entertainment for the guys and for you guys watching. And as much as I'm a bad guy when I'm out there. I wouldn't be anything without them being out there.
Exactly. So yeah. So what would you say your favorite match of all time is?
Um, I would say it's a mix between the two. So Mr. Perfect versus Bret Hart at SummerSlam, and also Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it's gotta be. I'm a huge Japanese style, so my favorite's gotta be Okada and Kenny Omega, wrestle from Dominion. I think it
Okay.
was. I think it was the fourth one. I believe that was
See,
the.
them two are, they've got amazing talent. They could wrestle a broomstick and they would put on a 5-star classic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Okada and Kenny, the two of them. I mean, they could wrestle anybody with no training, nothing, and they
They
could
still
bring them. They could bring them to like a 5-star match, and
exactly.
you know that's just something. So, and then when the two of them get together, man, they just make magic, man, right there. As
So instant 5-star, instant.
it's got to be more for
Yeah.
me though. But yeah. So what would you say your favorite food is?
I would say pasta because it's just full of energy, and I'm always eating it. So
Yeah,
you know, I can't really say the bad answer because it makes me look very bad. I wouldn't mind a
mhm.
McDonald's here and there, but pasta, is always my go-to.
Pasta. My girlfriend's family, they
Yeah,
they love. They're Italian, so Italian food, pasta is number one right here, man. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
always.
So yeah. So we got a comment right now. The heel always gets the fans that hate them. The heel makes the match. So you
Exactly.
agree with that? Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with that statement. Like I said before, it's like you have to get the crowd so heated up so the babyface,
It's like
gets
it's like
like
it's like watching a film. There's no villain without a hero. You know.
exactly, So it's like now I want to talk a little bit of a different topic from WrestleMania last night. I've been getting a lot of mixed reactions. I don't know if you watched last night or
Yeah. So I, in a weird way, I wasn't shocked that Roman won.
me either.
Honestly.
I called it to everybody, and every one of my friends are like, "No, you're lying. Cody has to win. This is bullshit. Cody's got to win." I'm like, "No, it's guys. Me being a podcaster and talking to wrestlers, it's like
Yeah,
to be honest, it's like it sets up a bigger story for Cody and makes you
exactly.
want him to have it more.
It's
Now you
more
want him to
it's more like a retribution story for him. So like obviously he's had this loss, which means now it gives him more hunger to obviously chase it. But I was hoping because there it is rumored that Randy Orton was meant to come out in that match, and I was hoping it would, but it
no.
didn't happen.
It didn't happen, but the match was great though, and now that Roman won, people legit really hate Roman Reigns, and that this is exactly what you want to do and this is how you sell a match right there. So,
Exactly.
just want to know what your feelings are about WWE getting bought.
It's weird because I know where I kind of got an idea of where Vince would be going for that. For one, it gets more eyes on the product because you got to think a lot of UFC now people will come over to WWE and watch, because there's a lot of it kind of opens up a lot of doors because there's always talk of Conor McGregor transferring over to WWE. Now that could happen, so there's a lot of potential to a lot of good things and possible bad things happen. We
It,
don't know.
there was also talks about Daniel Cormier coming in over and doing some stuff with them too, maybe Brock or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. So there's potential, and like I said, I don't doubt or don't think badly of Vince for doing it. It's a big money decision, and to be honest with you, if you look at the figures, he's once he's retired, he's settled, he's
he's done.
sorted.
He's done. Yeah. So I have a couple more questions left. What do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? You'd say.
I would see now. A lot of people would be like, "Oh, I want to be in WWE." For me, I want to have a I want to have a chance to go abroad a little bit. So maybe come to the States where you are, um, maybe have a stint in Japan, tour over there, learn some new skills, face some, really high level opponents. Like, I've the last few months it is elevated for me. I wrestled Gianni Valletta, the All Japan Pro Wrestling star.
Hmm.
I wrestled him at Firestar Pro Wrestling. The opponents are getting bigger. It's just I need that platform now to extend over and hopefully tour overseas.
Yeah. So where are some of your dream places you like to travel to? Like that you
Number
not travel
one,
to you.
I would say number one would be Japan.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to go to New York and LA, and also Germany because the wrestling scene in Germany is on fire at the minute.
Hmm. A quick question: how did you come up with the name Hammerhead Smith, or is it
This
from your
was
dad?
it was from my dad's name. Yeah, I don't know exactly how he came up with it, but it's been brought down to myself, and I'm just carrying on with the name.
Carry on the legacy, man. Maybe you could be the one that defeats Roman Reigns, man. The family generation right there.
Uh, I'll check my after this interview. I'll check my spam folder and make sure Vince hasn't emailed me. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's the request box right there. It's like, wow, I got a message from WWE there. There you go. And this and Vince is always about the money. He doesn't care. There.
Yes, some truth to that.
Mhm. So, do you have any upcoming shows or
Yeah. So I'm quite busy. So I am wrestling next at the end of this month with CCW. And then next month I'm literally booked every single weekend. So it's and then from May up to all the way to the end of the year, it's looking pretty busy. And that's exactly what I want. I want to be busy and I don't want to be waiting like a month to 2 months when the next one is. And like luckily for me, and I'm fortunate enough because if I look back to 4 to 5 years ago, I wouldn't even be dreaming about having these shows every weekend. It was always like, it would be at January and I'll be like, right, your next show is in June or October. Where now I'm fortunate enough to be like looking at my diary and I'm like, I've got shows every weekend.
yeah, damn man. So that yeah, and that's good though. I mean, and the times I always talk to wrestlers. I'm like, you want to come on the podcast this week? He's like, okay, I'm very booked this week. Booked this week. I'm like, okay, that's good, man. Good enough. Which is good for you guys, and I'm proud. You know.
I appreciate that. Like I said, I feel like ever since lockdown happened and then we came back from lockdown, my kind of career in the indie scene's picked up and it's getting busier and a lot of people now are starting to know my name, which is good. So things are looking up, and I just need to keep that momentum going.
Yeah. So I mean, your matches are pretty much like the big man versus little man matches. Have you ever had any big man versus big man matches or
Yeah, so I had obviously what I just mentioned about Gianni Valletta. He's an absolute massive of a guy. So that was a big test for me. It was for the European title. So obviously that was a huge test for me. He's head trainer at Pro Wrestling Malta, which is in Spain. And obviously he's tag team champions in All Japan with Tajiri. So it's an absolute honor to step in the ring with him. In June, I've got Tom LaRufa, if you're aware of him.
right? I'm not really too familiar. So
He was in NXT. And he's touring like France and he tours around the whole world. So I've got him in a world heavyweight title match against actually Rob Bagwell as well and Tom LaRufa in a triple threat. So that would be good. I've got the thing about it is I'll take all comers. It could be it could be a small guy, it could be a large guy. The bigger is the better, to be honest, because it just shows more what I can do, what I can do with my ability and my size. Because a lot of people have said to me, for my size because I'm 6'2" and I'm not a smallish guy. I can still do things that like a cruiserweight can do or like a small guy can do. So they're pretty impressed with it.
yeah. So basically, like one question I had for you is somebody like one dream opponent I asked you. I'm surprised you didn't say Zap Gibson.
Well, I could have left that for maybe a tag team.
Yeah. Or you could tag team with him. That's another thing right there. You and
Exactly,
Zach
that's
Gibson.
what I mean. Don't get me wrong, I would love to step in the ring with him, I really would. But because of the back of my mind, everyone keeps saying you're the second Zach Gibson, it might put me off a little bit.
There you go. So do you have any social medias or
Yeah, so on Facebook, I've got Hammerhead Smith. On Instagram, I've got Hammerhead Smith Jr. And I think that's about it. I'm not massively big on social media, but I'm trying to get out there a little bit more. So obviously, I'm trying to progress the social media platform a little bit more.
yeah. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Not a problem.
Hammerhead. Man, maybe in the future episodes you come back, you know?
Yeah, of
So
course, of course.
all right. All right.
I
So
appreciate you having me on.
all right. I'm the Metal Geek. Oh wait, we have one more question. We already said that though, but favorite wrestlers.
Tag team growing up, I would actually say, I'd say either two, Brothers of Destruction or Kane and X Pac
Kane Xbox. So I'm the Metal Geek. And just say your name.
and Hammerhead Smith. See you later, guys.
And we'll see you in the next one.